Hello. Welcome back to Get Inspection Ready podcast. I hope you are all well. I'm sorry if you can hear there's drilling right next door. Can you believe it? The day that I want to do some recordings and the electricity decided that the squirrel that took down the line, they need to replace it, so none of that drilling. So I'm really sorry. So I'm hoping we'll get this out the way, that you won't be able to hear this. So what is this week's podcast all about? So this one is, I've not done this one before, so this one, and so I've done a little bit of investigating, is what does exceptional really look like? So what we're looking for is we're looking beyond outstanding practice to exceptional impact. That's what this podcast is all about. Now, one of the things I want to say to you is, if you ever read an inspection report and thought, how on earth did they get that written about them? You know the type of a report. You know, these are the ones where children are described as remarkably curious, or making rapid and sustained progress, or thinking deeply, or another good one, showing exceptional resilience. That's a great one. Leaders are visionary. The curriculum is inspirational. Children are described as thriving. I love that one. And if you're sitting there wondering, what are they actually doing that you're not? Well, actually, here's the truth. Exceptional settings don't have magical children. We like to think they do, but they don't. They don't have unlimited budgets. They don't have inspectors who are easier than everyone else's. What they simply understand, something that many settings get amiss, really. And exceptional isn't something you do. It's something that children become because of what you do every single day. So today in this podcast, I want to unpick exactly what inspectors are seeing when they use the words like exceptional, because once you understand it, you realise it's completely achievable. It really is. And exceptional is not about activities. It's not about that at all. And one thing that jumps out from these reports is that inspectors hardly talk about activities. Instead, they describe children listening to the language, children proudly explain, children confidently solve problems, children persevere, children research. Love that one. Children debate, children collaborate, children lead. Notice something in that? The inspection isn't praising adults, it's describing what children have become. And that's because inspectors don't inspect the activities, they inspect the impact those activities have had. Now, an average inspection says the children painted. An exceptional inspection says the children used their previous experiences to independently design, test and evaluate. There's a huge difference. One example which really fascinated me is when reading those reports, and that's what I've done. So if this is your setting, it said like the Treehouse project, and it lasted 9 months. So a project that lasted not 9 minutes, not 9 days, not 9 weeks, but 9 months. And the children wanted a treehouse. So instead of an adult saying, let's make one, the practitioners asked, how can we make this happen? Now, if you've listened to, we've created Windows to the World curriculum, if you've been listening to that or have managed to get hold of that, you'll realise that's what we talk about all the time. The children in this scenario about the treehouse, they wrote letters, they designed plans, they voted, they tested materials, they measured wood, they used real tools, they solved problems, they worked together, they changed ideas, they kept going when things failed. Now, think about how many of areas of learning were naturally covered in that. So communication, literacy, mathematics, understanding the world, physical development, expressive arts and designs, being creative, being critical thinking, problem solving, resilience, citizenship. Now, this wasn't a topic or a theme, it was authentic learning. And exceptional settings don't rush children through the learning. So maybe relook at what you're doing and think about how you are enabled learning to become part of children's lives. Another thing is what I want you to think about is vocabulary. And one phrase that appears repeatedly in those exceptional reports are rich conversations, purposeful interactions, broad vocabulary, meaningful dialogue, and children don't simply answer questions, they discuss it, they debate it, they explain it, they predict it. So look at the example of one of the reports I was reading is they were finding an egg. So a good setting might say, well, what animal would lay the egg? An exceptional setting asks, let's investigate, let's research. I always believe in co-research, and if you don't know anything about it, please go and do some research about co-research. Let's compare, let's challenge our thinking. And this is where children become scientists. They become researchers, and the adult isn't delivering knowledge, they develop thinking. And that's what inspectors notice. They see that children are developing their thinking. Now, exceptional practitioners know when not to intervene. And one thing I love about these reports that I'm reading is that adults aren't rescuing children, they're coaching. And children are allowed to struggle, to test, to persevere, to fail, to rethink. And one sentence that really stood out is, children develop confidence to experiment without fear of failure. That is a biggie. So imagine if every child felt that, because resilience doesn't develop when everything goes right. It develops because adults allow children time to solve problems. And sometimes we help too quickly. And exceptional practitioners wait, they observe, they listen. Then they step in only when it adds value. And that's really, really important. Let's think about the evaluation area of inclusion. And this section really, really made me smile, because reports don't say they have an excellent Senko. What they describe is every practitioner, every child, every interaction. Leaders know families incredibly well. Support is immediate. Targets are precise. Parents are partners. Funding is purposeful. British Sign Language isn't just for one child. Everybody learns it. And think about what message that sends. You belong here. It's all about sense of belonging, and that's exceptional inclusion. And it isn't reacting, it's designing a setting where everyone belongs from day one. And if we talk about leadership, leadership changes everything, because that's the big difference, the leadership. Inspectors don't praise paperwork, they praise decisions, they praise vision, they praise research, they praise culture, they praise staff well-being, they praise professional development. And one report described leaders as transformational. Now that's powerful. And exceptional leaders aren't asking what do inspectors want, they're asking what do children deserve. When you lead like that, everything changes. The curriculum improves, staff confidence grows, interactions improve, children thrive, and inspection outcomes simply become the evidence of excellent, exceptional leadership. So what actually makes a setting exceptional? So if I had to summarise all of these reports into just a few characteristics, I would say this. Exceptional settings believe children are capable of far more than adults often expect. They create meaningful projects instead of isolated activities. They build a curriculum around real life, curiosity and purpose. They value conversations more than anything. They give children time to think. They welcome mistakes because mistakes create learning. They know every child deeply and they adapt instantly. They invest heavily in their staff and they never stop asking how they can be better. None of those cost money. They're all leadership decisions. So if you're listening to today's podcast and wondering whether your setting could ever achieve this, please don't read reports and think that you can't, because you can. So I want you to think about it today is what would happen if we gave children longer to investigate? What would happen if we trusted them more? What would happen if they replaced activities with projects? What would happen if every interaction became a teaching opportunity? Because that exceptional practice isn't built the week before inspection. It is built every single day through those little tiny decisions, and eventually those tiny decisions become your remarkable children. And that's exactly what inspectors are going to write about. So I'm hoping that helped you, because I've not done this before, about what exceptional looks like. Please let me know your thoughts. Let me know what it is that you're going to do to take from today's podcast. And remember, outstanding isn't impressing inspectors. Exceptional is about transforming children's lives. So until next time, keep leading with purpose, keep believing in what you do and believing in your children, and let's keep getting inspection ready. See you next week. Take good care.